Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I work with a lot of individuals with attachment wounds. Today, I wanted to go over a topic that was actually requested, which is how to make an anxious attached individual feel loved and safe. And this is helpful for even individuals who are dismissively avoidant. It actually might lean towards avoidance in general, like dismissive or fearful avoidant, but this can help secure individuals as well if that's your attachment style and your partner is anxiously attached. Sometimes it can be hard to understand what they need. And so this is kind of a quick guide that I put together based on some of my observations with a lot of anxious individuals, not just in couple session, but also individual therapy. A lot of people don't recognize this, but as a therapist, we sometimes have to experience some of the attachment behaviors as well. And so when I'm with an anxious patient, like anxious attached, a lot of times they will have a lot of, which I don't mind, but I notice this a lot. Like anxious attached individuals, they tend to be more maybe emailing me after session or asking for certain things during session. Like they may have certain behaviors. They may need reassurance as well. And so I've picked some of these up, not just from a relationship standpoint, but from like a romantic relationship standpoint, but just in general, how some of these individuals operate. And I'll be honest, it was a learning curve for me because I will say among all attachment styles I could ever be, anxious is probably the one that's harder for me to understand. And I think that's just the way, everybody's different. The way I am is sometimes I didn't always know what was going on, but it helped me to learn. And I don't mind. I never judge anyone. I will always admit if I don't know something. And so if anybody is anxiously attached in the comments, let me know what you think of this and kind of chime in. I don't mind. I want this to be a space for people to learn. I'm not, as I mentioned many times, I'm not really doing this for money. I'm really not. I have a job and I like my job, but I like helping people. So let me know. So the first one that I notice is consistency. And for avoidance, I'm going to put a spin on it for you guys. It doesn't have to be, because I think a lot of avoidant individuals, what you guys think when you think of consistency sometimes is like you have to always be in a happy mood, or you have to always be ready for physical affection, or you have to continuously make like lots of effort. But that's not what an anxious individual needs. Sometimes they may not even recognize it. They might not even say it because sometimes they just don't know. They've been hurt a lot in their life. And so individuals who are anxiously attached, they're just looking basically that you won't leave them. That's kind of the source of it, the abandonment, right? And so I will kind of describe it as like low forms of consistency. This actually helps individuals in general. Like all attachment styles actually appreciate this over time because this is actually what builds a healthy relationship. That means showing up and messaging in the morning when you wake up. That means when they ask a question that you try and answer as soon as you can. I'm not saying that you have to be glued to your phone and you have to answer them right away all the time. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is show them that you're somebody that's always going to be there, or at least you're going to be there for this time. I'm not saying you have to force yourself to stay. If you want to leave, that's fine. But if you like this person and you like this relationship, show them that you're not gonna just up and leave when they send a text message or when they ask a question. And I know for a lot of individuals who are avoidantly attached especially, sometimes you don't know what to say. But what I can say is you can communicate that with your partner. If they're asking you questions and you want to answer, you can mention, I don't know what to say. What can I say to make you feel better? Consistently showing up and, let's say they like a phone call before bed. A lot of anxious individuals, they like this, right? It's different from avoidance. A lot of avoidance, they like to decompress before bed. Like they really don't like that disturbance because they need like an hour or two just to be by themselves so they can get to bed and have their space. But anxious individuals, sometimes they want to talk before bed. So meet in the middle, maybe a 5-minute phone call or just a text message, good night. Be consistent so that they know you're going to be there. That's really what it is, okay? The next one is verbal recognition and appreciation. Now, a lot of people know avoidance need this, but I don't think people recognize that anxious individuals need this too. Now, it's a little different. Basically, with anxious folks, they want to hear some form of I love you. You mean a lot to me, right? I can see that you're doing this. I can see that you're trying, or I really like how you did that, right? In a therapeutic standpoint, I really like how you worded that. That made a lot of sense. Or don't worry, I didn't take it like that. I'm not saying you're this way, right? Some sort of verbal recognition, whatever it may be, to just help them understand what you really mean, because it's very important to realize that a lot of anxious individuals, preoccupied, they grew up in an environment where things were pretty inconsistent and uncertain. So typically what happens is they're actually less likely to trust actions. And this is something that I really am certain of. And a lot of anxious individuals don't even recognize that this is what's actually occurring, okay? In an anxious person's childhood, or wherever they picked it up, actions were uncertain, whether it be the caregiver leaves sometimes, whether the caregiver stays, like the action itself is uncertain. But a lot of times they grew up in households where words were not as commonly exchanged, like emotional words. And so in their mind, if there's an action, they don't trust it fully. Avoidants are not really like that. Avoidants are actually the opposite. But what happens is, even if you as the partner, you're always there, they don't really see that as love, because their caregiver was there, but their caregiver was inconsistent in so many ways. Sometimes it's almost like they were a baby and they were just left crying until they threw some emotional tantrum, which as a child, it's called tantrum. It's not an offensive term. Psychologically, a child tantrums. Like, it's not a bad thing. But what happened is they were taught, I can't get love until I really express myself because my caregiver is just leaving me there, right? And so they don't feel like actions are always genuine. They think they change. But if an action is in conjunction with a word, you say, I'm not leaving you. I love you. I care about you. You mean a lot to me. I like the way you do this. I do find you attractive. I'm just tired. Whatever it may be, that is going to really heal a lot of their wounds. And a lot of avoidant individuals, I think, this is a common misconception with anxious and avoidant individuals. Avoidant individuals feel like if I keep saying this, they're just going to want it more instead of feel better, right? That's not true. Actually, one thing that's really wonderful about anxious individuals is once they get enough of it, they're fine. Like they just don't like the scarcity, the feeling of scarcity. Once they feel, okay, this is abundant, this partner is never going to leave me, I feel that we're safe, I feel loved, a lot of their behaviors are actually going to decrease significantly. And so truly, there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to giving your partner what they need. They're not going to be dependent on it. I know a lot of avoidants and individuals in general, they're afraid that their partner is going to be dependent on it and then they won't be able to continue saying it because they feel like it'll never be enough. That's not true. There definitely is an enough moment. For a lot of anxious individuals, there is an enough moment. If there's not, it's really important to talk to them about it. And that's going to be our last point. But we still have one more to cover, and then we'll talk about that point, okay? The next one is kept promises. Now, anxious preoccupied individuals, from my experience, have really, really good memory when it comes to relationships, probably in general. I think this trait is endearing, but it's very unique and special for anxious individuals. They can remember something from months and years. Like, I notice it as a pattern. They will remember something years ago. They're really specific. Like, anxious individuals... And I see this with personality disorders as well. And I don't judge anyone. I don't care. But it'll be like, for me in session, if I'm looking away just for a quick second, they'll be like, are you listening? Are you listening? Why are you looking away? What's going on? And I am listening. Sometimes I think, like, I have this behavior where I have to look up a little bit or look to the side. And I'm thinking, and an anxious individual, anxious preoccupied, is always going to be like, what are you looking at? Why are you listening? It doesn't seem like you're listening. I don't think you're paying attention. And I think they don't recognize it. And then they remember that too. Or if I forget a name of what they're sharing, they will bring that up later and be like, oh, do you remember this person? Because I remember you forgot last time. And I'll be like, what? Oh. And so in relationships, I see this in session, right? Where an individual, like let's say a partner, avoidant and anxious, the avoidant individual may forget a promise they made, and the anxious individual will hold on to that. Either they're waiting on it, or because the promise was broken, they have a harder time trusting the promises, right? And so that's very important to recognize. They perceive broken promises or forgetting a promise as not caring. Whereas it's very likely you're probably tired or you're busy or you had a long day or whatever. But what ends up happening with avoidant individuals is it actually makes it worse a lot of times. They, how do I describe it? It's almost like they don't want to make any promises at all in case they forget, and they don't want to hurt you, right? And what ends up happening when an avoidant individual does that is it makes a space in the relationship. The relationship is not as connected because what's happening is the avoidant is avoiding making a promise or doing something for their partner. And doing things for your partner, regardless of your attachment style, it builds connection, it builds love. And so by the avoidant individual avoiding doing those things, the anxious individual begins to feel less loved. And the cycle just continues. So what if you're an avoidant individual? What I would recommend is, first of all, try to keep your promises. However, if you don't, just be clear with them. Don't avoid it. Say something along the lines of, don't be blunt because that can, trigger them. But be direct and honest. That's on me. I did say that, and I admit I forgot. But I do want you to know it doesn't mean I don't love you. It just slipped my mind, right? That's all. It really does work. However, they may be a little bit upset after that, but you'll see they'll start warming up. Continue to reassure them. I shouldn't have done that. I did forget, and that's true. That's on me. I'll keep it in mind. It slipped my mind, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you. Anything like that, right? And so the last one, which I mentioned earlier, which is really important in general with anxious individuals, and a lot of people miss this one, okay? Be honest, even if they don't like it. This is something that a lot of individuals, I don't want you to learn this the hard way, okay? Lying to your partner makes your partner happy temporarily. It's a temporary solution. And I know a lot of people do it, they mean well. I don't want to tell my partner that this is, a little bit annoying or a little bit hard to express, or I don't know what to say. And annoying is probably a strong term, but I hear that a lot in session with couples. There's another way to say it. And there's another way to communicate. Don't be completely direct, like I had mentioned. Now, what ends up happening is if you continue to lie to your partner, you will end up breaking their trust by using this method. And honestly, you could lose your partner by doing this. So please try to be honest. I know you're scared to hurt their feelings, and you're scared how they will react. And I get that. But is that really the best for them? Part of being in a relationship is helping individuals grow together. And by you avoiding their growth, you're creating more issues for both of you in the long run. So all that I ask is that you create a safe space for honesty. And your partner will at one point appreciate it. They may not like it right away because it's hard. It's hard, and they may take it as rejection. Reassure them, but do not bend and change the word, right? Be honest without being harsh, and provide reassurance. By doing that, you do create a safe space for honesty, which will overall make the relationship less distant. And I know this one is really tricky, but it's very, very important. So I hope this video was helpful. Please go ahead and subscribe, like, and I will see you in the next one.